Emirates NBD, they're dropping 1% of the company.
Yes.
I mentioned Khalifa bin Bouti and Saeed Al-Kasabi. What do you make of Emirates NBD dropping the stock at this stage?
Look, let's put things in context. This was a small sale, right? It represents roughly 1% of NMC. I don't look at it as a big event. Okay. However, it's coming on the back of a much bigger sale 2 weeks ago. Credit Suisse selling a big stake, which was roughly worth $500 million.
Okay.
So that tells you there's a lot of leverage at the shareholder level, and a lot of stock is being pledged to banks.
But it's about symbolism. I mean, you got to admit, you got Credit Suisse exiting. You now have Emirates NBD selling. So it's about the symbolism rather than the size.
That's right. I agree with that. So you got this stock dropped more than 60% from the peak, okay? And there are clear issues, at least the Muddy Waters puts a lot of pressure on the stock on their report.
What's the market most worried about from the Muddy Waters report?
That's a very good point. Look, there's plenty of allegation in that report.
Yes.
Many of them are known to the market or irrelevant.
Fine.
The ones that are related party transaction, all of these things are not good governance, etc. However, the market was aware of them. What the real issue is, we want to make sure that the cash balances are correct. The level percentage rejections that we're talking about are also correct, because that impacts the profitability of the firm, which is central for investors in NMC. And when you look at the reply of NMC, we did not get a full answer that was satisfactory to current investors. So that's why everybody's going to be waiting for that independent investigation to get answers to these two particular points. The rest is less important, I would say.
Can I ask you, it's a US, they've brought in a former US federal judge and FBI director.
Right.
Can I ask you, is the market convinced this is the right person to do this job? Surely a forensic accountant who used to run KPMG or one of the major accounting firms would be the credible individual to have. Maybe I don't know enough about the accounting background of the US federal judge and former FBI.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he has the credibility to, in short, because it's going to be a team doing it. And I think for now, the little work we've done on this firm and the market chatter that this is a credible investigator.
Okay. What about FIM, down 34%, the most since the IPO? And this is, again, going back to the Shettys placing stock in FIM for their purchase of Travelex. Again, it's crossing the boundary lines of financing, isn't it?
It is.
Which is perfectly acceptable, by the way.
It is absolutely acceptable, but it's also worrying, because you're talking about a lot of leverage, and you saw the stock coming down on the back of that leverage. Why? Because people are worried the same thing that happened with NMC is going to happen with FIM. When you have the shareholder to leverage, at some point it's going to trigger margin calls. And we're going to see it over the potentially see it over the next few days. That's why people are worried. That's why the stock is that much down.
Okay, we went down the rabbit hole of NMC and FIM.
Yes.
Let me just quickly ask you, we caught up with Sejwani, the chairman over at Damag, and he says Dubai property prices are rock bottom as the curbs begin to work. Big call by Sejwani, who warned that the real estate was going to spill over when Yusuf sat down with him in the autumn time. That's a big call. Is that manifest in the market yet? Is there a belief in that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit too early. I don't disagree with what he said in the sense that the prices are very close to replacement cost or cost of construction. Therefore, the margins of developers today are very close to zero. But if you look at the crisis elsewhere, actually real estate prices can trade below replacement cost for some time before you can get a balance between demand and supply. So I think we're not too far from the bottom, but we're not necessarily in the bottom. You have a lot of supply coming, and generally whatever is under construction will be delivered, and that will put even more pressure on prices. And my opinion is we will go a little bit lower, below replacement cost, and that will probably be the opportunity to get in. But I wouldn't call the bottom right here.